The story begins on the Abyss battlefield, as a man named Lin Fei battles against the Abyssal Emperor. The Emperor is sealed in light, and Lin Fei writes his final words. We learn that 20 years ago he was taken in by the master of the sword sect, but he found out he had no potential for cultivation, so he ended up being sent to take care of the library, but he still enjoyed his time there. But one day, the Dark Abyss emerged, and everything was thrown into chaos. All his companions left him to fight the Abyss Emperor, but in the end, they all died, and he was the only one left. Lin Fei leaves behind his will, hoping the sword sect can be passed on. Although he couldn't cultivate normally, he mastered the artifact refinement skill. With this skill, he uses the bodies of his fallen allies as fuel, and his own soul as a trigger, to burn the Abyssal Emperor to death. The Emperor curses at him, and Lin Fei's body fades away. Lin Fei suddenly wakes up, confused about how he is still alive. He sees the jade with his final words, but he is suddenly approached by a man he recognizes as the Abyss Emperor. He wonders if the Abyss Emperor was also reincarnated, but after observing him, he seems nothing like the Abyss Emperor except his face. The man is introduced as Tian, and he accuses Lin Fei of stealing their sword techniques. Tian attacks him, but Lin Fei blocks it, and is surprised to learn that his new body can cultivate. He sees a spirit that urges him to teach Tian a lesson, so he ends up fighting with Tian, who attacks him with his Ghost Slayer technique, but Lin Fei easily dodges it, and corners him in an instant. Lin Fei returns to his house at the Yuan Peak, and talks to the spirit. The spirit shares his memories with Lin Fei, and we see him getting bullied by Tian and training hard, but he ended up overworking himself and died. Lin Fei checks his body's aptitude, and is shocked when he finds out the spirit had chosen the 10,000 sword technique for his foundation level. There is a flashback to Lin Fei's previous life, when he excitedly tells his master he wants to learn the 10,000 sword technique, but his master warns him it would take 10 years just to master one technique, let alone 10,000, and he throws the book away. Back in the present, Lin Fei thinks he is doomed to be a failure at cultivating once again, but he suddenly remembers a secret and opens his jade. He knows of a treasure that will help with his cultivation problem. The spirit fades away and Lin Fei sends him off. Suddenly a sword comes flying in, and outside we meet Lin Fei's junior, Ling, and a disciple of the Majin Peak, Chun. Lin Fei can see that Chun is drunk, and tells Ling to send him away, but Ling doesn't want to offend him, because he is the head disciple of the master blacksmith. Lin Fei goes to help out, and we see Chun knocking on a door. He gets blown away, and we meet Lin Fei's other junior, Yuna. Chun thinks she is a beauty and approaches her, but Lin Fei saves him as she attacks him. Chun gets pissed off and powers up, but Lin Fei stops him with just a rock. Chun runs off and says he will complain to their master. Chun meets with Lin Fei's master and tells him to punish his disciples for almost killing him. He threatens to stop providing them with swords if he refuses. Lin Fei and his junior arrive, and Lin Fei takes the blame. According to the rules of the sect, the punishment for hurting other disciples is being sent away to cultivate at the punishment cave. The cave is notoriously dangerous, and the master tries to cover for Lin Fei. But Lin Fei actually wants to go to the cave and accepts the punishment because that's where his treasure is hidden. Before he leaves for the cave, Lin Fei borrows his master's lantern. Later, Tian comes to take Lin Fei away, thinking that he would be scared, but Lin Fei bursts out and is eager to go. There is a flashback to when Lin Fei was at the cave in the past. He is close with the sect master and shows him his latest discovery of ice cream. The duo arrives at the cave and Lin Fei is happy to see that it still looks the same. Inside, Tian warns him of the dangers of the cave and is visibly afraid. Tian tells him that it's his punishment to slay at least 10 monsters a day, and Lin Fei happily goes on his way. As he explores, he gets attacked by a snake demon, but he easily takes care of it, and even harnesses its essence for later use. We then see Lin Fei as he battles against countless other snake demons, fighting with his sword techniques, but he gets tripped over, and the snakes all charge at him. But this was just Tian's nightmare. Feeling worried about Lin Fei, Tian goes to check on him. When he arrives, he finds the bodies of the snakes, and Lin Fei is completely fine. A snake lord suddenly appears from the water, and Tian says they need to work together. But Lin Fei charges at the snake, and defeats it with a single slash. Tian can't believe Lin Fei is suddenly so strong, and he thinks he must have a magical sword. He swaps his sword with Lin Fei, and another snake lord appears. Tian confidently charges with his magical sword, but it instantly breaks, and Lin Fei saves him. Lin Fei realizes that Tian's blood has the yang property, which is the snake's favorite food, so he ends up tying Tian up and using him as bait. The demon snake king appears, and Tian is instantly knocked out. Lin Fei realizes he is no match, and makes a run for it. The snake catches up, but as it gets close, it suddenly stops attacking. Lin Fei recognizes the mark on its head, and there is a flashback to when he once found a baby snake, and took it as his pet. Before his final battle with the Abyssal Emperor, he tasked the snake with protecting his treasures. Lin Fei is happy to be reunited, but sees that the snake is suffering. After it became a demon king, it should have evolved, but the snake refused, because it didn't want to be away in case his master returned. Lin Fei calls it a dummy, and commands it to evolve, telling it he will be here when it returns. The snake leaves, and Lin Fei helps Tian. Tian wakes up and gets reprimanded by his senior for fainting in front of the snake. Tian thinks that Lin Fei must have some secret connection to the snake demons. Meanwhile, Lin Fei continues on to look for his treasure, heading toward the Eagle Beak Cliff. He passes through an area disguising himself using the essence from the snakes. But a portal suddenly opens, and Tian comes falling down. Lin Fei quickly helps him into his bubble. Tian thinks that Lin Fei is heading to the Eagle Beak Cliff to release the seal on the Snake Demon King. Lin Fei thinks he is talking about his pet, but Tian explains that hundreds of years ago, there was a Snake King who was the master of illusions that went on a rampage, but eventually was sealed under the Eagle Beak Cliff by the sect master. Lin Fei is just glad that he wasn't talking about his pet. Lin Fei reasons that if he was a bad guy, he wouldn't have saved him from the snakes just then. Suddenly a light appears in the distance, signifying a rare treasure, and Tian makes a run for it. All the snakes attack him, and he cuts them down, but Lin Fei realizes that he has been caught by an illusion, and helps him wake up. Tian thinks that the seal on the Snake King must be loose, and that was one of its illusions. Lin Fei activates his master's lamp, and rains fire on all the snakes. Lin Fei says they are still in danger, and tells Tian to open a portal to escape. But Tian tells him that the portal item can only be used once a day. Lin Fei sees that he can alter the item, and tells Tian to hold off the snakes. Tian holds his ground against the snakes, but is eventually overwhelmed. Lin Fei manages to open another portal, and tells Tian to report that the seal has gotten loose. He throws Tian into the portal, but he stays behind. We then meet a senior named Li, and he is informed about the demon snake seal being loosened, and is being ordered by the sect master to investigate it. He leaves immediately, and was also told that Lin Fei is trapped there. Meanwhile, Lin Fei sees that the seal has definitely come loose as he is attacked by the energy of the demon Snake King. He gets trapped by its magic, but his pet snake comes to his rescue. Lin Fei can see that it had forcibly stopped its evolution just to come and save him. With a roar, the demon snake's energy retreats. Lin Fei apologizes for being so weak, and swears he will get stronger to be a good master. His snake ends up giving him a ride, and he arrives at the entrance to his hidden treasure. Lin Fei opens up a secret portal, and heads inside. He digs up his treasure, and finds the Cosmic Astro Blade, a treasure that can turn back time, and allow him to unlearn the 10,000 sword technique. But it suddenly shatters, and Lin Fei is devastated, thinking that he is now doomed to be weak in this life. He kicks his box in frustration, and a rare ore of Tai Yi flies out. The ore reminds him of a conversation he had with one of his seniors in the past. He was trying to throw out the 10,000 sword technique book, worrying that if anyone actually tried to learn it, they would be doomed to fail. But his senior theorizes that instead of learning 10,000 techniques, you could transform your body into a magic weapon to achieve the same result. But in the end, there was no technique to transform a body into a magic weapon, and even if you could, creating weapons has the chance to fail, which is fine normally but would result in death if you were to fail on a body. So they end up throwing the book away. But since then, Lin Fei mastered the refinement skill and has the ability to transform his body. He considers the risk of failing, but thinks he has no other choice, not wanting things to end the way they did in his previous life. So he activates his refinement skill and absorbs the Tai Yi essence into his body. The essence causes chaos within his body, but he manages to balance it out and absorb it. He breaks through the foundation level and reaches into the spirit-nourishing realm. To get stronger, he will need to absorb more rare materials. Meanwhile, at the Eagle Beak Cliff, Li examines the seal and repairs it. As he returns to the sect, Tian is waiting and asks if he could save Lin Fei. But Li tells him that it would be impossible for Lin Fei to survive, and it's not worth looking for him. But Tian begs him to search for Lin Fei, and gets blown away. Li gets mad he is being questioned, but his attack is stopped, and Lin Fei appears. Li accuses Lin Fei of being the one who weakened the seal, trying to unleash the Snake Demon King. But looking at his power, Lin Fei can tell that Li was the one using the demon snake's power to help him cultivate. Li attacks him, but Lin Fei blocks it thanks to the new Tai power he absorbed from the ore. Lin Fei taunts him, and Li attacks with his demonic slash. But Lin Fei summons a spirit sword and counterattacks. Some of the Tai energy flies into Li, and Lin Fei was blown away. Li prepares to finish him off, but the fight is stopped as Tian returns with his senior. He has an order from the sect master to take Lin Fei, so Li has no choice but to stand down. Lin Fei thanks Tian Senior for saving him, and they go to meet the sect master. We learn that, although they are all from different houses, they are all part of the same sect. The sect master praises Lin Fei for discovering the demon snake's broken seal, and rewards him with a rare ice material that would be perfect for creating a weapon. Lin Fei accepts it, and happily rushes home, planning to absorb it. He absorbs its power, and it raises his strength by another level, as well as gaining some new ice techniques. On the other hand, we see Li struggling to cultivate, as Lin Fei's energy in his body causes him pain, and he swears he will get his revenge on Lin Fei. Later, Tian sneaks around outside Lin Fei's house. He remembers how Lin Fei saved his life, and wants to thank him, but feels too embarrassed. He thinks about what he should say, but Lin Fei suddenly comes out, asking what he wants. Tian tells him that Master Wu has just gotten a new high-grade furnace, which he can use to create a weapon from the reward the sect master gave him. Tian runs off embarrassed, and Lin Fei sighs, because he already absorbed the ore. Lin Fei is called by his master, and he wonders why he didn't show up when he was in danger. His master makes an excuse, and Lin Fei gets mad at him. But before he can leave, the master mentions a rare ore at the magic shop. Lin Fei quickly changes his attitude, and the master tells him that a rare refined gold ore appeared at the magic shop. Lin Fei rushes to see it, and arrives at the shop. It's filled with people trading, and boxes flying around. Tian is also there, on duty as the guard. Lin Fei asks for the gold ore, but the clerk tells him there is another buyer, but they couldn't agree on the price. The clerk brings out the ore, and Lin Fei sees that it's an obsidian gold ore. Tian suggests that he get it identified first, but Lin Fei says he can tell that it is at least grade 4. The clerk mentions that the seller is looking to trade it for a weapon that wards off evil, but they are suddenly interrupted by Chun. He is the other buyer, and demands to have the gold ore. Lin Fei gets into an argument with him, and everyone is surprised someone is standing up to Chun. Chun questions if Lin Fei even has the money to afford the ore, but Lin Fei reveals he has the perfect item to trade. Chun insists that he saw it first, and the two start a fight. Seeing Lin Fei's ice technique, Chun is confident, as his fire is the natural counter. But as their attacks clash, Chun is overwhelmed and blown away. The fight is stopped, as Master Kong, the owner of the shop, appears. Lin Fei apologizes for the trouble he caused, and Master Kong lets him off easily. Lin Fei quickly confirms his trade with the clerk, and hands over his magic lantern. On the other hand, Master Kong ends up charging Chun for all the damages he caused, and he has no choice but to pay up. After that, the clerk wonders why the master sided with Lin Fei when they are on good terms with Chun's master. Kong is interested in Lin Fei because he was able to overpower Chun's attack, even though he had a weaker element. The next day, Lin Fei pays Chun a visit and says he is there to ask his master to make him a sword. Chun tells him his master is not around, but as Lin Fei leaves, he mentions it was an order from the sect master. Chun quickly changes his tune and says he made a mistake. He takes Lin Fei over to his master's forge and quickly retreats. Lin Fei knocks on the door, but there is no answer. Chun watches on as he knows his master hates being interrupted while he works. Lin Fei calls out for the master, and suddenly he gets pulled inside. He meets the master blacksmith, Uncle Wu, but the master proceeds to blow him away. But Lin Fei is persistent and continues banging on the door, saying he was sent by the sect leader. He gets grabbed again, and the master calls for Chun. Lin Fei is chained up above the furnace, and the master tells Chun to watch him as he hangs for 3 days. As Chun watches him, he even fans the flames to increase the heat. Lin Fei is able to free himself from the chains, and falls into the furnace. Chun freaks out seeing this, and wonders how he will be able to explain this to his master. Lin Fei falls into the furnace, and there is a separate space inside. Lin Fei looks for the source of the blazing fire, and he is approached by the flame salamander. He battles with the beast, and manages to bind its movements. He takes his chance, and begins to absorb the beast's flames. The flames allow Lin Fei to further refine his body, and after that, he also borrows the flames to refine his obsidian ore. A phoenix burst forth, and it turns out to be a 1 in a million phoenix iron. Meanwhile, Master Wu returns, and Chun rushes to him, telling him that Lin Fei tricked him and managed to get away. But suddenly, Lin Fei comes bursting out of the furnace. Chun is shocked Lin Fei is still alive, and the master demands the truth. Chun apologizes profusely, but in the end, his master tells him the one thing he doesn't tolerate is being lied to, and he banishes him to the Sword Mountain. After that, the master wonders why Lin Fei jumped into the furnace, but Lin Fei just denies everything and says it was just luck. Seeing Lin Fei was able to escape the furnace without a scratch, he believed that Lin Fei must have a fire controlling skill. They discuss making Lin Fei's weapon, and the master offers to create him a weapon with his best material in exchange for Lin Fei's fire controlling skill, telling him that that is the one thing he is missing to become a true master. Lin Fei realizes it's a misunderstanding and reveals he already has his own material. He shows the master the phoenix iron. He is blown away he has the chance to work with such a material, and immediately agrees to make Lin Fei his sword. Later, as Lin Fei tries to get home, he sees a man blocking the way up the mountain and beating up his juniors. He rushes to help, and the man traps him with his flying swords. Lin Fei is impressed he is using such an advanced technique. The swords come flying at him, but he is able to deflect them and manages to break free. But the swords chase after him, and his weapon is destroyed. The man declares the fight is over, but Lin Fei isn't finished, as he activates his sword aura. The man is surprised Lin Fei was holding back, and they clash once again, but Lin Fei is able to stop his attack, while delivering his own. The man admits his defeat, and introduces himself as Shin. He hopes they can fight again, and he takes his leave. After that, Lin Fei asks Yang about their beef with Shin. Apparently, they had bought a treasure map, and went digging in the desert, and ended up digging Shin up. Yang thinks it was strange, but Lin Fei tells him that he was cultivating a special technique which requires being in the sand, and they interrupted him. Yang gives Lin Fei a gift for saving them, but Lin Fei suddenly gets serious, asking where he found it. Yang says he found it on the way with the treasure map, and Lin Fei warns him not to tell anyone about it. Back at his house, Lin Fei examines the object and calls it the Eye of Heaven. However, he is too weak to be able to use it, and he considers the only way to get the resources to become stronger would be to participate in the relay assembly. A week later, Master Wu has successfully crafted his sword. Lin Fei infuses his energy into it and a phoenix appears. He is overjoyed to find the master created a spirit weapon for him. Lin Fei thanks the master, but he is just happy he had the chance to make it. Lin Fei talks about the fire controlling skill and asks the master if he has heard of the dragon's breath technique. It is meant to include the fire controlling skill, but the master says it was useless in practice. Lin Fei remembers the prank he pulled in the past and tells the master that the pages in the book are jumbled up. The master is amazed at the realization and offers Lin Fei any of his magic weapons as a reward, but Lin Fei asks to see and train in his mind instead. The master is surprised at his choice but agrees and takes him into the mine. They are transported there, and Lin Fei can feel the energy from the ores. Lin Fei activates his technique and begins absorbing the energy. But after a while, there is too much energy and the technique goes out of control. He calls out to the master, who manages to help contain the energy. However, the technique activates again, drawing more energy in. The master panics, and Lin Fei tells him to use the fire to burn away the excess energy. The master tells him that only works in crafting, but he has no other choice, and tries it anyway. Meanwhile, Tian trains in the forest, and his master is impressed with his growth. His master tells him to do his best in the relay assembly, but tells him not to overdo it. Tian swears he won't disappoint, and wonders how Lin Fei is doing. Back at his house, we see Lin Fei unconscious. Master Wu explains that Lin Fei ended up absorbing all the energy from the mine, breaking through to the next level, and then passing out. Lin Fei's master examines him and says he has suffered an injury to his mind, but there is nothing they can do. Lin Fei wakes up and finds himself in his past life. He sees his friend from the past, and his head begins to ache. He is suddenly chained up and confronted by the Abyss Emperor. The Emperor tells him that his reincarnation and new life were all just in his head. But Lin Fei breaks free, realizing the Emperor is a fake because he talked too much, and kills him again. He realizes he is in an illusion, and he is confronted by himself. Lin Fei tries to fight him, but finds he is just as strong as him. Lin Fei realizes he is just a heart demon, trying to take over his consciousness, and the fake taunts him with the memories of his friends and master. They end up stabbing each other, but light suddenly rains down on the fake, and he fades away. When Lin Fei wakes up, he finds it was his master who helped him. He swears to repay his debt, and his master takes the opportunity to get him to do a task for him. He tells Lin Fei to go to the Sword Mountain and find the sect founder's sword. Only relay disciples are allowed inside the Sword Mountain, and Lin Fei agrees to do his best. Later, Yang brings him his medicine, and he is put off by its bitter taste. But since Yang put the time into making it for him, he forces himself to drink it. Lin Fei realizes that Yang even skipped lunch to prepare the medicine, so he goes to make some food for him. He makes some simple noodles, but Yang finds it to be delicious. Over the next few days, Lin Fei continues to nurse his injury and gives pointers to Yang as he trains. He shows him a new technique, and Yang tirelessly trains it. He thanks Lin Fei for teaching him, and is happy that he won't be the worst at the relay assembly. Lin Fei tells him that although he isn't the strongest, he is gifted to be able to work harder than anyone else. Lin Fei wishes he had worked harder in his previous life, but snaps out of it and says that they should have a nice dinner before the relay assembly the next day, and Yang gets excited to eat his food. Lin Fei also invites Yuna for dinner. Despite her cold appearance, she enjoys his cooking. They are joined by their master, who gets them all to drink, and he wishes them luck at the assembly. The day arrives, and all the young disciples gather for the relay assembly. Lin Fei is still injured and struggles to get up the steps. Tian comes up to him and asks where his junior Yuna is. When he sees her, he is amazed, but he is focused on her magical sword. A bell rings, and the event begins. The sect master explains that all the past masters and elders of the sect have been relay disciples, and the winner of the relay assembly will be named the 14th relay disciple of the sect. He calls for Master Zhao to begin, and the master opens up a portal to the secret lands. They explain that the first round of the contest lasts for 3 days. Each person is given a jade plate, and the top 16 who collect the most jades will move on to the next round. The contestants enter the portal, but as Lin Fei approaches, he notices a man named Tong that exudes hostility toward them. After he passes through the portal, Lin Fei asks Yang who he is. Yang explains that, back when their master still had his power, he destroyed the Quan House's most talented disciple, and that person was Tong's father. Yuna says it would be best to avoid him, and they head through the portal. Inside, they are all split up, and Lin Fei realizes the masters are watching with a remote device. The contest begins and the disciples begin fighting over the jades. Some of them even decide to team up, but as Tong walks past the group, they don't dare to mess with him. Tong asks if they have seen Lin Fei's group, but they haven't, so he continues on. But he unleashes his dragon power to attack the group. Meanwhile, Lin Fei cooks some chicken, hoping to lure some people in, but it's just Tang who shows up. Soon after, more people appear, and Lin Fei easily sees through his opponent's technique and defeats him with a stick. He then coaches Yang as he fights against a girl, pointing out the weaknesses in her technique. With his advice, Yang is able to take the girl's jade. As more people show up, Lin Fei uses this as a chance to train Yang. Yang manages to win against 4 opponents but ends up passing out. Lin Fei helps him into a cave, but he is soon confronted by a group of 3. They don't want to bully him, so the leader steps up to fight. As they trade blows, the other man is shocked at how many different techniques Lin Fei is able to use. In the end, the two clash, and the man admits his defeat and hands over his jade. The other 2 know they are no match, and just hand over their jades. Lin Fei wonders how Yuna is doing, and we see her easily destroy her opponent with just her aura. In the morning, Yang is surprised at all their jades. Lin Fei tells him to take it easy, as he's still recovering. It's the final day of the contest, and Lin Fei says that they have enough jade plates to just wait for the event to end. Meanwhile, a cowardly man named Wang comes across Tong. He manages to dodge Tong's attack and run away. Tong is confused how his attack missed, and chases after him. Wang warns him not to push him, but Tong is intrigued and continues to attack. He attacks with his dragon technique, but Wang unsheathes his sword and blocks the attack. Wang starts to panic, saying it's too late, and a spirit appears behind Tong and grabs him. Tong senses the spirit, but it's invisible to his eyes. A spirit appears behind Wang as well, and he blames Tong for dooming them both. The 2 clash, but the fight is stopped as the end of the contest is announced. Lin Fei and Yan celebrate passing, and we see Yuna and Tian have also passed. The elders announce that the relay assembly will continue after 7 days, and in the meantime, the winning contestants are given the chance to cultivate at the sword wall. The contestants are amazed at the opportunity, but Lin Fei wonders what's so special about it. The master guides them to the entrance and warns them that fighting is prohibited. When they get inside, Lin Fei sees the sword wall and has a flashback of his friend. His friend confronts a great beast and manages to seal it away. All the disciples look on at the markings on the wall, and as Yan looks, a slash jumps out at him and he panics. But Lin Fei reminds him not to give up. As Lin Fei looks at the wall, he sees that the markings are helpful for improving with the sword, but he is more interested in something else. The next day, everyone keeps cultivating, but Lin Fei suddenly takes out food and begins eating with his friends. Tong is annoyed by this, but Lin Fei says that there is no rule against having food. The masters also debate this, with Master Zhao wanting to kick Lin Fei out. But they suddenly see his disciple Wang also eating with them, and Zhao quickly changes his mind and agrees that there is no rule against food. Master Wu wonders what Lin Fei has been up to. While everyone else has been cultivating, he has been messing around. The final day at the sword wall arrives, and all the disciples have made significant advancements in their cultivation. Tian is proud of his improvement, but hears that Lin Fei was the only one who didn't improve. He goes back to look for him, but finds Lin Fei opening up a secret area as a black mist bursts out. Later, Tian looks confused and runs into his master. Tian asks him if he has ever seen the black mist, and his master becomes serious. Tian tells him that he went into a special area with Lin Fei, and 9 special seals appeared. They were even more advanced than the markings on the outside, and Tian managed to memorize 3 of them. His master is intrigued by Lin Fei and tells Tian not to mention this to anyone else. Meanwhile, back at Lin Fei's house, he has memorized all 9 seals and concentrates his power to create one of them, but then he realizes he is late and rushes to the arena. The second round of the relay assembly is a tournament, and we see Shin as he fights against another man. His flying swords get broken, and everyone thinks Shin is about to lose. We meet a man named Duan, as he says Shin will lose in 10 moves. Shin struggles to defend himself, but Lin Fei offers Duan a wager. Duan is not interested, but Lin Fei offers up a rare artifact, and Duan takes the bet. The man easily defends against Shin's flying swords, but he combines them all together and pierces the man. The man admits his defeat, and Lin Fei goes to collect his winning. But suddenly, they get matched up together in their next fight, and Duan suggests they double down on their bet. The two get into the ring, and Lin Fei draws his phoenix sword. Everyone is amazed he has a spirit weapon, but Duan remains confident in his assassination techniques. Duan rushes at him, and in an instant, he suddenly disappears. Duan emerges from his shadow, and Lin Fei barely dodges, but gets hit and frozen by Duan's ice sword. Duan disappears into his shadow again, slashing Lin Fei as he reappears, and freezing his body. Lin Fei is completely frozen, and Duan finishes him off. Duan becomes confused when the fight is not declared to be over. He realizes that he was fighting an illusion, and Lin Fei also knows the assassination technique. Lin Fei appears from behind and catches him off guard. Although Lin Fei knows his technique, Duan says he is just a jack of all trades. But Lin Fei challenges him to see who is better. The two fight, and they both keep teleporting around to attack each other. But it ends with a clash, and Lin Fei is the winner. Yang is up next, and he manages to win with a single attack. But his technique takes a toll on his body, and Lin Fei takes him back home to rest. The fights continue on, as Tong easily wins using his ice and dragon techniques, and Yuna also destroys her opponents with a single slash. Back at Lin Fei's house, he helps Yang heal. Suddenly, a depressed Tian asks to stay the night. He tells them that he lost his fight against Wang in the most embarrassing way, as he tripped over and fell out of the ring. He swears there was something strange about Wang, and Lin Fei says he could be using the misfortune sword technique, a technique that brings bad luck and makes their opponent lose control and die before they can even attack. Tian can't believe how overpowered it is, but Lin Fei tells him that it affects the user as well. The draw for the next day's fight arrives, and Lin Fei finds he is up against Wang. The next day arrives, but Wang is nowhere to be found. Master Zhao finds him outside, and Wang tells him he wants to quit. He doesn't want to hurt people with his misfortune. His master understands and lets him go. As Zhao is about to withdraw his disciple, Wang returns, not wanting to let his master down. The fight begins, and Lin Fei tries to end things quickly, but he struggles to land a hit and even hurts himself. Wang activates his technique, and a spirit appears behind each of them. Lin Fei uses his clone technique to attack from all sides and catch Wang off guard. But as he goes in for the kill, the spirit alters his attack, and he ends up headbutting Wang instead. Looking at Wang, Lin Fei realizes he uses the most simple sword technique, so his misfortune doesn't affect it. So Lin Fei attacks using his most basic attacks. The crowd is disgusted by his crude technique, but Wang struggles to defend himself. He is on the verge of defeat, but he activates his ultimate technique, which converts all of his luck into a single attack. However, the attack is stopped by Lin Fei's mysterious seal, and he absorbs the attack. Xiao catches his disciple, and Lin Fei doesn't really remember what happened, but is told that he won. Yang is up against Tong next, and he attacks using his most powerful technique, but it's not enough to break through Tong's defenses. Tong counters with his ice and dragon techniques. He goes for the finishing blow, but the match is stopped, and he is declared the winner. Xin overwhelms his next opponent, and Yuna easily wins her fight, and they both make it into the top 4. They draw names to see who their opponent will be, and Lin Fei is matched against Tong, and Yuna is against Xin. Lin Fei begins his fight with Tong, and Lin Fei attacks using his clone technique. Tong unleashes his dragons to fight the clones, and Lin Fei is unable to get through his defense. Tong throws his sword up, transforming it into a dragon, and Lin Fei shields himself. Tong plans on devouring Lin Fei's power and embarrassing him in front of everyone. Lin Fei warns him about eating his power, and Tong's dragon is frozen. Tong is weakened, and Lin Fei takes the chance to break through his defense and stab him. The fight is over, and Tong's master pulls the ice energy from his body. He gets mad and attacks Lin Fei, but Lin Fei's master appears and blocks the attack. The master unleashes the seal on his body, and a dark power is unleashed. Lin Fei realizes there is something terrifying within his body. For over 100 years, he has kept this power sealed, despite being bullied for being weak. Tong tries to protect his master. He is about to get annihilated, but his master quickly apologizes for attacking Lin Fei. Out of respect for the sect master, he reseals his power and leaves with Lin Fei. Back at their home, the master suddenly coughs blood, and he tells Lin Fei to get his medicine. After that, the master tells Lin Fei to focus on the final battle with Yuna, as he predicts she will easily defeat Xin. He reveals that Yuna is the reincarnation of a fallen fairy, and with her magic weapon, Xin has no chance. Just like the master predicted, Xin's swords are easily destroyed, and Yuna wins her match. The next day, the final match begins, and Lin Fei tries to go on the offensive, but is forced to dodge Yuna's sword aura. Lin Fei is continually attacked, and all he can do is dodge. He even tries to go invisible, but that is no use. The masters are impressed by Yuna, and Zhao says Lin Fei is lucky they aren't fighting at night in the moonlight. No matter what Lin Fei tries, all he can do is dodge. Lin Fei decides to change things up, and uses Xin's flying sword technique. He tries to keep her distracted so she has no chance to attack him. The swords attack from all sides, and one eventually lands on her. There is suddenly a solar eclipse, and Lin Fei realizes that this is her domain. Yuna's sword is awakened, and she blows away all of Lin Fei's swords. The masters are amazed, but say that Yuna cannot sustain the power for long, so the next strike will determine everything. Lin Fei has always used different techniques, but decides to use his original move called Catastrophe's End. His power swells, and everyone is shocked he has so much energy. The eclipse radiates, as Yuna also powers up. Yuna sends her slash at him, and Lin Fei takes it head-on. In the end, they are both standing, but Lin Fei is the winner. Everyone cheers for him, but Lin Fei faints after losing too much blood. Lin Fei wakes up to see his old master. He cries over missing him, and his master gives him some ice cream, like in the past. The master tells him that he entrusts the sect to him, and he sees all his friends. Lin Fei promises that this time he will make sure to protect everyone. When he wakes up, he is surrounded by his friends, and they congratulate him on his victory. He goes to meet the sect master, and he is awarded with a token and named the 14th relay disciple. Lin Fei returns home and trains. He tells his master he plans on going to the Sword Mountain to face the trials. But there is a bird that watches him, and it seems the Abyss Emperor is still alive. But that's where this video ends. I hope you enjoyed this series. Remember to like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.